Hello fellow FPL managers and welcome to this week's FPL video focusing on Game Week 14. We'll be reviewing Game Week 13 and the players who I had suggested to avoid, pick and take an outside risk on. Then take a look at how my team did in Game Week 13 before moving on to this week's transfer. Then we'll look at my Game Week 14 starting lineup and who I think will be the best players to avoid, pick and take a risk on for Game Week 14. It was almost a hat-trick on last week's predictions, however an assist and an 89th minute fortunate tap-in for Firmino prevented the full sweep of predictions, with the Brazilian picking up 12 points this game week. David Silva picked up 9 points, playing 90 minutes and grabbing a goal and a clean sheet during City's dominant 4-0 away win at West Ham, so that turned out to be a good choice. And finally, the forgotten man, or he was forgotten before last game week, Mitrovic found the net twice for my outside risk, returning managers with 13 points. And it's interesting to see that just 2 weeks ago he had been selected by around 1.5 million managers, yet this week's numbers had dropped to around 990,000. I wonder if they're regretting their decision this week. Game week 13 for myself couldn't have been much worse. I took that risk last week of minus 20 points to make the side that I've wanted for weeks, and on the whole they let me down. Alonso and Hazard got battered by Spurs. The rest of the starting 11 were nowhere to be seen this week in games where they should have been involved and very important during those games. Only the Everton pair brought in any real points to talk about, and that's because one of them was my captain. So only Sigurdsson can really leave this game week with his head held high following his goal and 11-point haul at home against Cardiff. Hopefully next week he can vastly improve, the whole team can vastly improve, especially since it's a good game week again for most of my players and Liverpool will be playing against Everton. That is the only sort of issue that I think is going to be with my squad this week. My gamble didn't pay off and I've tumbled down pretty much all of my tables, but I haven't given up on a strong finish just yet. For my transfer this week, unsurprisingly, I've had to change Mendy and I've swapped him for Trippier. So straight away, people are going to be saying that Trippier is injured or Shaqiri is still a starting 11 risk, or insert player name here would be a better choice. Or I should be leaving my transfers until Friday night or Saturday morning. So please just hear me out and I'm going to give you my reasons, okay? So first, the early transfers. I had to repeat myself a lot last week in the comment section about why I do transfers early, and the only reason I do it is for my videos. Releasing FPL videos earlier in the week is key to gaining an audience for the videos. If I wait until Wednesday or Thursday or Friday to release it, people are less likely to watch and they'll already have made their own minds up for the up and coming game week. If people would like to perhaps see one video and then a separate video or stream later in the week about transfers and starting 11 and other points, then that could be a possibility. But as of now, I have time to definitely commit to at least one video a week, and that seems to be the right level of interest that people are showing me right now. So if you do want to see more, then you'll have to let me know in the comments below, okay? So as for Mendy, why Trippier? I had to transfer Mendy as soon as possible, or else I'd lose a few £100,000. Points, whatever you want to call them. Mendy's price of 6.4 is dropping, and 465,000 managers removed him last week, and that is only going to increase, which therefore decreases his price and could end up as low as 6 million by the time he returns, which would put me well out of pocket. So as for why the injured Trippier, there's two reasons. One is that because he's carrying an injury, his price has decreased, kind of the opposite of Mendy, right? At the same time, they're both decreasing, but he's coming back sooner. And with Wan-Bissaka and Duffy having favourable Game Week 14 fixtures, I don't mind bringing him in now for cheaper and putting him on the bench for a game week or two. I'm getting one of the best FPL defenders for about 100,000 to 400,000 pounds, points, dollars, whatever, cheaper than his price will become in the next 3 to 5 weeks. Reason 2 is that Spurs, following the Arsenal game in Game Week 14, have a great run of fixtures. Game Week 15 all the way to Game Week 27 looks very good for Spurs. There's only one top tier game there, and that's at home to Manchester United in Game Week 22. However, Spurs will be big favourites for this game as well. This reason should also expel the argument of why not you know, have this player, for example, why not Trent Alexander-Arnold? Spurs have a better run of fixtures. Trippier is one of the most dangerous FPL defenders to have in your side when he's fit, and I'm still not sure the likes of Alexander-Arnold is going to play week in, week out. It looks like he's cemented his place for now, but it looked like that earlier in the season, but he lost his place. So now, why is Shaqiri still in the side? And the simple answer is, well, first I had to say I had to get rid of Mendy quickly. And I said I would change Shaqiri for probably Felipe Anderson. But if truth be told, I had to sort Mendy out this week and I would have changed it. But at the end of the day, Shaqiri did play last week, the majority of the game against Watford. Yes, he only got 3 points, but I said I'd only swap him out this game week if he didn't play, but he did, so maybe next week he'll be the transfer to go out of the side. Moving on to this week's starting 11, and it almost remains the same. Ben Foster stays in goal, as he has done all season. The back three sees Wan-Bissaka make his return to the starting 11 as Palace face a struggling Burnley side. Alongside him are Robertson and Alonso, who face Everton and Fulham. The rest of the team pretty much remains exactly the same. Richarlison and Sigurdsson are off to Anfield to face Liverpool, and on the other side is going to be Shaqiri, hopefully playing against Everton. Martial is away at Southampton, and Hazard, who's a little bit of a doubt for the game, is at home to Fulham. And up top sees Sergio Aguero looking to score at home or maybe get some assists against Bournemouth, because City are looking unstoppable, so I'm hoping it's going to be a rout, whilst Arnautovic heads off to Newcastle to try and stop their rise. That leaves Rondon, Duffy and an injured Trippier on the bench for this week, and the armband is going to Eden Hazard. Finally, this week's look at my predictions for Game Week 14 and who to avoid, pick and take a risk on. Whilst my team itself does poorly on a weekly basis, I do know that, it seems that I usually get 2 out of 3 of my predictions right, so let's hope this week remains the same. Or let's go for that fabled hat trick that I've not managed to quite clinch just yet. So first, let's look at who to avoid. I was going to risk a City player for this, with Man City playing Champions League football midweek, and with an easier tie at home to Bournemouth, I felt someone like Sterling or Aguero or Sane might miss out on the weekend. However, I'm going to go with Aubameyang. He's facing a Spurs side off the back of a great win against Chelsea, and I think from there Spurs are going to kick on. With Aubameyang, as well as his form has been in recent weeks, they're against a good Spurs defence who's almost back to full strength, and the Arsenal results in the past few weeks haven't actually been as good as I think they should have been. So I'm thinking that Spurs are going to do well this week and Arsenal might struggle, and their frontman Aubameyang might be the one to pay the price. My player to pick this week is going to be Harry Kane, pretty much for the opposite reasons I've just mentioned for Aubameyang. The Spurs frontman scored against Chelsea last week and seems to thrive against Arsenal, the bitter rivals of Spurs. He scored 7 goals against Arsenal, which is the second most amount scored by a player in the North London derby's history. My risky pick of the week is going to be Wilfried Zaha. So Palace grabbed a great draw at United last week, and with confidence high, they're heading back to the cauldron of Selhurst Park against a Burnley side that are seriously struggling of late. And I think that the Palace frontman could be back amongst the goals this week. Similar to the feeling I felt last week about Mitrovic being my pick, that's the feeling I'm having this week about Zaha. So that's it for this week's FPL video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any player suggestions for other players or FPL managers for this coming week, then please leave them in the comments below and mention why they are your pick of the week. Thanks a lot, and maybe leave a like and subscribe if you're new here, and as always, have a good one.